everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Christine Pettit, Executive Director of Long Beach Forward. I'm here today with Susana Sngiem, Executive Director of United Cambodian Community. Hi, Susana.
Hi, sorry, I'm trying to post it onto my Facebook too, but Jinipsil, the Akmia, Look Om, Look Bu, Look Ming. Thank you. Greetings, everyone. I'm just so thankful to be in this space with you, Christine.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, it's been a few weeks since I conducted any interviews as part of the nonprofit partnership storytelling series, Our Stories, Our Time. It also just became very windy right now. But what a few weeks it has been. This storytelling series was created to connect with nonprofit leaders during the COVID-19 pandemic and see how organizations and the people in them are navigating this new reality, or a reality that we're kind of figuring out. And now over the last few weeks, we've seen major demonstrations across the US and throughout the world in affirmation of Black lives and against police brutality. So we're truly in historic times. So Susana, thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview with me, and also for pushing the interview back a week so we could keep the attention focused on this movement moment that we're in. So if you could just start out by sharing a bit about yourself and the work of United Cambodian Community, that would be great.
Great. Yeah, my name's Susana Sngiem. I'm the Executive Director of United Cambodian Community, and it's been 5 years in that role, which has gone by really quickly, and I feel like I'm still new to the position, but every day is a learning opportunity, like during COVID-19 and in this environment that we're in now. Yeah, and so just a little background about myself. I'm a native Long Beach resident, born and raised in Central Long Beach, or East Side Long Beach, and super proud to be a child of Cambodian refugees. My family came here in the early 1980s, and my parents were sponsored by my cousin, and we first arrived in Kansas, and it was really cold in Kansas. And so my mom and my dad decided to move to Long Beach. We had family members out here. And so that's how we first came to Long Beach, which is very similar to a lot of Cambodian families here in Long Beach and how they settle into this area. Yeah, since then, just really grew up in the Long Beach area, went to Poly High School, was a PACE student there. And one of the significant things that happened in high school was that my father passed away from liver cancer, and due to hepatitis B and C, and that could have been preventable. So that's what inspired me to start doing work in social work, because I really wanted to not let that happen anymore to families because of the lack of, I guess, health education and the barriers when it comes to accessing health, barriers in terms of language access, and cultural barriers when it comes to accessing resources that are available out in our community. And so after that, I went to get my master's in social work so that I can make a stronger impact and give back to my community. And during that time, I interned with the city of Long Beach, and my supervisor was Tracy Kalunga, who actually sat on the board of UCC. And so that's how I first started to work with UCC on grant writing and being able to build some financial resources to an amazing organization. I spent 2 years as the program developer, really building strong relationships with the community, and then from there, enter into the executive director role. Since then, it's been a wild ride. I started off with 4 team members, and now we've expanded to 12. Oh. So we've got a lot of growth, but that's also that's due to just the support of the team and the community members, and really being able to advocate for resources for the Cambodian community and for Long Beach in general. So it's been a crazy year of growing, of a new mission statement, of a new strategic plan. So I'm looking forward to what will come, especially after 2020.
Right, right. Well, thank you for sharing your story with those who are watching and who will watch. And, you know, just making that connection to you growing up in Long Beach, to your family's story as well, and the work that you do today. It was so awesome to see you step into the executive director role 5 years ago. And I feel like we've been really learning and growing together. So I definitely value you. You've been such a strong partner, but also just a strong advocate for your community.
Thank you. And that shift not only happened to UCC, but to many Cambodian organizations nationwide. And what we saw was just a transition of leadership from the first generation to the second generation. And with the second generation, we definitely, as new executive directors, came together nationwide, all the way to like Lowell, Massachusetts, to Georgia. We all are connected and collaborating together to really think about and talk about how are we shifting the narrative around the Cambodian American community here? How can we work together to ensure that we are advocating and really making sure that we're at the table and really partnering with other communities of color to ensure that there's equity within health and economic development, within immigrant rights, all those things.
Yeah, I definitely see that. And as an executive director, it's so important to have those connections, but then also to think strategically about your community, who you serve, and really what you're uplifting right now, and to be able to think through that with people and be strategic. That sounds really important, and I can definitely see it in your work too.
Oh yeah, that's my support system. I wouldn't be here if I didn't have time to connect with you and to other Cambodian leaders, just to process, because there's so much out there, and that we're all in the same boat, and just really appreciate the time that we can encourage one another, to uplift one another, to keep on doing the good work and striving towards equity.
Absolutely. So we are in this time, you know, of a pandemic. What shifts has UCC had to make in light of COVID-19, and how are you navigating those shifts?
Yeah, it's been a crazy change. What has been very challenging for us is that within Cambodian culture and how we provide culturally responsive services, is that a lot of our community members build trust through direct engagement and build trust over food, right? And so a lot of our services in terms of direct services are in-person meetings, one-on-ones, workshops. Specifically in our culturally defined mental health practice, we built in social activities to build the networks and the resources among isolate community members. And so we have to totally shift and rethink about what that looks like. And I think that's been the biggest challenge, because it's so core to our culture that we want to be sure to still recognize that as an important piece of our culture, but then also help folks stay healthy. So thinking of creative ways of still making those social connections, but not physically present with one another. So the ways that we've been doing that is we've been doing weekly care calls with our clients that we serve in our mental health program. And it's so amazing to hear some of the stories coming out from the UCC team members. Like we're doing like direct calls. And so one team member said that she called a resident in Central Long Beach, and he said that he lived here for more than 30 years, and this is the first time he ever received a call from a nonprofit. And so they got to talk about his life, and just was super encouraged, especially during this time, to receive a direct call from a stranger and receive services in that way. Additionally, we've been thinking of creative ways of how to go about bringing people together. It's been, Zoom doesn't really work in our communities because of the lack of digital literacy and the digital divide in our community. And so we've been using conference calls. And so our folks are able to call the phone. And so that's another way that we've been able to connect our communities together. We've also been utilizing Facebook more, and we chose Facebook as our online platform because it's user-friendly, but also a lot of Cambodian individuals already use Facebook because it's a great way to keep in touch with folks in Cambodia and Silk Mai. And so we've been doing a lot of our outreach and education. So we're pros at Facebook Live events now, you know, and I'm getting more comfortable on being on Zoom and videotaped, but it's amazing to see all the responses, how we're able to still provide in-language services through Facebook, and been trying to think creatively, how can we teach folks who are not on Facebook how to get on Facebook. So it takes about an hour to 2 hours to get people enrolled. And so there still are challenges, but we really want to ensure that the Cambodian community isn't left behind, especially when it comes to pandemic resources. A lot of the updates are through social media or through online platforms. And so we want to be sure to be able to bridge that gap and reach out directly to our community members so that they're informed and that they know how to best keep healthy and still keep connected with one another.
Mm-hmm. Well, kudos to your team for figuring out, you know, just being really creative. And I've definitely seen it. I mean, I think your creativity started even before this, when you were fundraising for Long Beach Kids, for sure. But thinking about in this time how to really be connected to folks, whether it's those calls that you talked about, or I know you celebrated Cambodian
New Year, yeah,
like
online.
That is very different, you know, but still trying to keep that sense of connection.
Exactly. So we were, as a team, we were thinking about what are the key pieces of celebration during Cambodian New Year that we can encourage our community members to still continue to do. So one of them is food. And so one of our staff members was doing like a cooking show. She showed us how to make notebook joke, and we talked about Cambodian foods. We talked about Cambodian foods in Cambodia and what we miss. We did like a comedy show in which our community members did a little bit of karaoke and looking at Cambodian videos, which you should definitely look up because Cambodian karaoke videos are just top notch.
Oh, nice. Some inspiration.
Yes,
okay.
Definitely.
Definitely check that out. That's awesome. So you talked a little bit about it, but how has COVID-19 impacted the folks you work with and are connected to?
One of the things that we've seen during COVID-19 is that a lot of the disparities that exist were even more exacerbated. And I think that's the domino effect of the movement that we're in now with Black Lives Matter, is just how the disparities have even become even more highlighted during this time. I already mentioned that just the huge digital divide that's happening in our community and the challenges of being able to help connect people online, but also the biggest piece that we've seen in the Cambodian community is just economic inclusion. So with all these resources around the pandemic, around unemployment, around small business loans, the EIDL, PPP loans, all of those were supposed to, the intention was to support community members that are on the ground that were lost jobs or businesses that had to shut down. But as you can see from the data and the news is that a lot of these resources were given to large corporations. And so for us at UCC, we really want to ensure that these resources were connected to the Cambodian community. So with unemployment, we were enrolling folks into unemployment over the phone, which was very challenging. Everything is online, and so that was the biggest piece for our community members, is navigating the online system, setting up emails for folks, and then having them register, and then from there being able to enroll into unemployment. The other piece is that we have a business navigator who is supporting the small businesses and helping them to adjust to COVID-19 operations too. A lot of our small businesses, they didn't have an online presence at all. Like if you were to try to look them up, you would see them maybe on Yelp, maybe, but other than that, they didn't have any other services. And so it's being able to help them be able to accept online orders, help them to do deliveries, and then being creative on how they were able to promote their foods and their services during this time. We've been able to, through our business navigator, he helped about at least 10 businesses access EIDL loans and the PPP loans, which is great. But that's not enough. And so one of the ways that we've been really pushing for is that a lot of our small businesses need access to direct funds and grants. Even though these loans are very low interest, you do still have to pay them back. And a lot of our small businesses are already in debt, and it's just not a good fit for them to continue to add on more debt during this time. So we've been working with partners like Citibank, also with Long Beach Economic Partnership, Long Beach Center for Economic Inclusion, to be able to build micro grants for our community members. So thankfully, we were funded by the Long Beach Community Foundation to provide micro grants to our small businesses. So currently, we're able to provide $500 grants to our small businesses just to help out with any rent or operational needs that they have, and give them a little bit of a breather during this time period. Because of the moment that we're in currently, we are helping right now specifically businesses that have been affected by vandalism this past week. So not only were they affected by COVID-19, but now by vandalism. And so we're prioritizing those businesses. With that in mind, we've also been able to build a GoFundMe fundraiser to help Cambodian businesses, and we formed a coalition called the Cambodia Town Relief Fund Coalition, and it's in partnership with the organizer Malian Bunma, who started the fundraiser, and then we're also partnering with Midtown Business Improvement District and Cambodia Town Inc. To facilitate these funds directly to the small businesses. So far, we raised about $90,000 to give directly back to businesses. We are planning to distribute these funds by the end of June. So we're doing a small application for the businesses that have been affected by vandalism, and then being able to allocate some type of funding. It's something in the right direction, but definitely there's more resources that need to be supported to our small businesses. In addition to that, we've been really organizing, mobilizing volunteers. So folks really love the way that people are showing up for the community by donating resources, but also donating their time. And so we've been helping businesses who didn't have the resources for boarding to board up their businesses. And from there, we partner with the Arts Council of Long Beach and Midtown Business Improvement District to paint the boards and to paint murals onto the boards. And we really want to uplift messages through Black Lives Matter, messages of positivity within Cambodia Town, because all the vandalism and the boarding up just sent the negative messages of violence, which is not what's the intent of the protests and the movement that we're in. And so we want to be able to highlight that and to instead highlight the resiliency of our community, highlight the Black Lives Movement and our allyship with them, and be able to really encourage our community members during this difficult time. So on Saturday, we hosted a community mural project. And so volunteers from Long Beach, but also outside of Long Beach, who just have a heart for Cambodian town, came down and painted some of the boards, but also they created their own posters supporting Black Lives Matter. And we're going to post that into businesses that don't have boarded up windows. And it was just so inspiring to create a space in which community members were able to come together and heal together, and heal together also with the small businesses. A lot of the business owners came out to look at the murals, and that invited an opportunity for conversation to talk about the moment that we're in, and to talk about how we as the Cambodian community can stand with the Black community, and to share the narrative of historically how the Cambodian community was able to come here because of Black activists really pushing for refugees coming here during the late 70s, early 80s. And so being able to tie in our freedom and our privilege to the work and just the love from the Black community. And so how can we at this time also provide that for the Black community?
Awesome. I see you really, I mean, you know, in the middle of a pandemic still, and then learning and growing as this so much momentum for the Black Lives Matter movement is happening, and, you know, just connecting with the businesses that have been impacted during this time too. You know, you touched on a bit, but I wonder if there's anything else you want to share about UCC's role in this time. Around this movement for Black lives, or the Cambodian community more broadly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's something I'm still navigating in this role, but I really appreciate other Cambodian organizations like My Girls in Action and CFIN, a Southeast Asian Freedom Network. There are partners that have been working on deportation and have been creating spaces for dialogue for the Cambodian community to really talk about anti-Blackness in our culture, and to talk about how do we navigate these conversations intergenerationally with our older adults, but also with our kids and our young people. And so this past weekend, CFIN created a space, a conversation around that, and definitely I've been learning in that process, and I think that's the space that we definitely can create, is creating these conversations and opportunities for us to learn and really uplift the leaders and the messages of the Black Lives Matters movement, and really hear from them how we can best support really being able to acknowledge that the Cambodian community does have disparities, but not as significantly as the Black community. And so how do we come together around these key issue areas and the talking points that the Black Lives Matters is pushing forward, and to show that the Cambodian community is behind that too.
Mm-hmm. You know, one of the issues is connected to policing, and I'm just wondering, you know, what would the call to shift resources from policing toward social services and support that many are making in this moment mean for the Cambodian community?
Yeah, that's been something that I know that the youth organizers have been moving in terms of Invest in Youth campaign to be able to shift the city funds from policing into these more positive and prevention type of programs. And for us in the Khmer community, we have experienced like complex trauma in which our families have a history of genocide and trauma from genocide, trauma from immigrating here to the United States, trauma from living in an urban environment, and just trauma living in this environment that we're in now, and just the trauma of deportation and separating families. And so being able to invest resources into trauma-informed care, especially trauma-informed care that's culturally relevant to the Cambodian community, that really builds upon the healing practices that we already do as a community. So being able to invest in our families, to be able to invest in our social networks that we build, to build protective factors around our families, our youth, so that we're able to have a healthy individuals, healthy communities, and like a healthy environment. So that's where we see it's really important to shift funds from policing into whether it's to youth programs, being able to support community-based organizations that are on the ground, that are working directly with these communities of color. I think that's definitely the push that we want to see for UCC, is seeing organizations like Latinos in Action, like UCC, KGA, to do this work on the ground and work together with the city to be able to provide these healthy spaces for our communities to thrive.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, you're really painting this vision of community care and the different layers connected to that. So speaking of trauma and just everything that we're, navigating through, what are you doing for self-care during this time?
Oh, good question. It ebbs and flows.
Yeah, I
There are
know.
good days and there's bad days. I think first of all, just surrounding myself with a good support network, definitely with folks in the nonprofit world, but also just girlfriends and family members. So hosting happy hours over Zoom, being super creative on how we support one another. My best friend and I, we've been doing like a beer exchange. And so we get a growler filled beer and then we drop it off each other's house so that we can just experience that together. But also some things I've been doing independently, puzzles, lots of puzzles. So my mind just runs wild a lot of times. And so it's nice to have a time where I can just focus on something tangible and I can complete it in like a sitting. And so that's what I love about puzzles, is that I'm able to just focus on details and be able to complete something, and I can see the completion of a project. Yeah, and then I've been trying to do other crafting creative ideas. I've been pinning a lot of things, but I've done some crocheting. So I have a few friends that are having babies, and so crocheted a few items for them. But also I have a wedding coming up, so putting in some DIY wedding decorations together too. So that's been really fun.
A wedding in 2020.
Yes, so my fiance is Ladine Chan. Woo, yes. And we were supposed to, so a Cambodian wedding has a really big reception. You have a reception at a Cambodian restaurant where you have like a 7-course meal. And we were anticipating a guest list of 600 people. And we realize now, probably during this time, folks wouldn't want to be in a space with 600 other folks, even though it'll be the party of the year.
Right.
We just really wanted to be sure that folks are safe and healthy. So we've postponed the actual reception till next year. But this year, we're just doing a small ceremony so that we can still celebrate our marriage and then celebrate in a bigger way with our community next year.
Mm-hmm. Well, congratulations to you
Thank
both.
you.
Exciting. You know, as you think about what is to come, and you know, not so much in your married life, though you can share that too, but what glimmers of hope do you see coming out of this time?
What has been like a silver lining in this process or COVID-19 and the moment that we're in is that there have been very progressive policies that we've been able to pass, like an eviction moratorium. If you were to tell me in February that we're going to pass an eviction moratorium in the next month, I would be like, you crazy. Just how the housing environment it was like at that time. And so I think this is the opportunity that we're in, that we're able, that there's hope in passing very equitable policies in this moment around housing, around economic inclusion, around justice, equity. And so I think that's something that we can definitely hold on to and continue to do the work and push. I'm so thankful in Long Beach that we have spent many years of building relationships and coalitions with one another so that we can take advantage or leverage this opportunity at this time. And that's how we've been able to get these big wins so quickly within the city of Long Beach. What I'm excited about specifically for UCC that I'm looking forward to is that within our 5-year strategic plan, we saw in our community needs assessment that there was a huge gap in economic inclusion within the Cambodian community and that there was no agency in the city of Long Beach that was working around economic inclusion. And so being able to build relationships and resources to start funneling resources to marginalized communities that have not been in these broader networks to leverage economic opportunities. And so that's our biggest push for UCC is being able to leverage economic opportunities for Cambodia Town and for the Cambodian Latinx Black community. And so some new things that we've been able to already move during this time is that we have the microgrants for small businesses. And then we are partnering with Long Beach Community Action Partnership to do food vouchers and address food insecurities within this central Long Beach. And so being able to provide food vouchers for Cambodian foods specifically with Long Beach Community Action Partnership. We're also in works of figuring out a rental assistance fund for families that have been affected by COVID-19 so that they're able to stay and remain in Cambodia Town and continue to have Cambodian residents and diverse community members in Cambodia Town and ensure that they don't have to move or ensure that small businesses don't have to close and move out. It's our residents, it's our small businesses that really make Cambodia Town a diverse, flavorful community. And with COVID-19, we're at risk of losing that. And so we really want to protect that. We really want to be able to not only protect it, but invest in it and show how valuable these individuals and these businesses are to cultural keeping. You know, there's this saying right now around placekeeping of like, how do we make sure that this neighborhood is not affected by gentrification, but we're able to have creative ideas of how to keep this neighborhood together. But I like to bring it to the next level of cultural keeping. So how do we keep the Cambodian town culture intact and invest in that and really bring that to light? And so that's our hope moving forward is with these new opportunities that we'll be able to leverage that to really build up Cambodia Town, invest in Cambodia Town right now, UCC is working with several stakeholders in a work group called the Anaheim and Atlantic Work Group. And we are putting in plans together to do a community visioning plan for Cambodia Town. And so being able to have community residents and stakeholders dream together on what they want to see, how they want to see Cambodia Town. There are many plans for Cambodia Town right now, but none of them were led by the residents and by the community, but rather it was something that the city brought down. And so we want to shift that, and we want to be able to say, here are the values, here are the priorities within our community here, and how can the city help us make this happen and invest in these areas.
Absolutely. There's a lot at stake, and it sounds like these partnerships bring a lot of hope for the future. That's great. Well, I know we went over time, but really quickly, how can people get involved in and support United Cambodian Communities work?
Yes, so you can definitely check out our Facebook. Our website is under construction, so our Facebook is most updated. So it's facebook.com/UCCLB. And then also we do have the Cambodia Town Business Relief Fund still going on. We're going to close it on June 15th so that we can distribute it out to our business owners. So if you would like to donate to that fund, we'll definitely send the link over so that you can directly support our small businesses.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Susana. I know you're processing a lot of, what's happening right now, and just thanks for being willing to share your work and your reflections.
Thank you, Christine. Bye, everyone.